Hey there, we're live and it's Monday, July 31st, the last day of July. The countdown is on to fall and it's not looking good. I mean, I'm enjoying the summer weather, but I'm not looking forward to the fall weather. In my travels last weekend, I started to see quite a few leaves. I mean, there wasn't a lot of color. Don't misunderstand me, but you could see the green was starting to fade more towards a light green or a yellow, and it's like, oh, this is just way too soon. But as I think back, this is about the time, especially up here, that you start to see this stuff. So, but anyway, it's been a good summer so far. It's been pretty decent, reasonably warm up north. I know you folks in the central part of the country have just been overwhelmed, and in the south have been overwhelmed with heat. But that's part of the summer. So, um, it's and I think back, how did we deal with this when we were kids? I remember driving, taking a trip from Upper Michigan to Central Minnesota, and oh, it would just get so hot over there that as we were traveling along, that there was no way to cool off, and it was just really hot, and the only thing you had was you had the vents down by your feet that you could open up, and then you had those little triangular windows, the triangular vent windows that you could open up a little bit and direct a blast of hot air on you. And so it wasn't much help, but it was all good times. I enjoyed it and the fond memories. So anyway, wanted to talk about a subject that's near and dear to my heart. That it's a topic that comes up in a variety of different ways, and it deals with. Oh, let's see. I mean, didn't have. No wonder I didn't have. Hey, Lisa, thanks for joining in. Lisa says it's 104 there in Oklahoma today. Yes, and I think it was low 70s here today, or maybe mid 70s. So I'm not going to complain about that. I am enjoying what warm weather we have. So anyway, um, one of the things that I hear a lot from people is they struggle with relationships and don't know why. And and I've even experienced this. I've done it myself. That I've dated somebody, and in fact, I dated my ex-wife was this way. That I saw red flags. I saw problems early on, and I thought, no, I can deal with this. I can fix this. I can make things better, and it'll be fine. And lo and behold, some of the things that I told myself, that I convinced myself that I could fix, that I could change, that I could make a difference, were things that I couldn't fix, that I couldn't change, that I couldn't make a difference. And so consequently, these were things that were problems that I couldn't solve. And no matter what I did, no matter how much I tried, there was no resolving these issues. And I see this uh, even 13 years later in working with clients today. I see that people still look at dating the same way. They look at, well, I can fix that. I can change him. I can change her. I can make this better. And the fact is, no, you can't. And the what happens is we start developing relationships with people. Hey, Glenn, thanks for joining in. Glad to see you're here. We start developing relationships with people that right from the get-go, we either ignore the red flags, or we tell ourselves these stories that, yes, I can make a difference, yes, I can make these changes, I know he'll change for me, I know she'll change for me, uh, I can bear this burden. But the reality is that after a certain amount of time, whatever that burden is, whether it's in my case, whether it was house cleaning, or keeping a neat and tidy house, whether it's politics, whether it's religion, that's another big one. Religion is another big roadblock or stumbling block if you're not on the same page. And when you're not on the same page on a lot of things, it just makes life so much more difficult. And I hear story after story after story, especially from women who want a Christian man. And I hear it from men too. They want a Christian woman, but they want a Christian man, somebody to go to church with them. And they meet somebody and he says, "Yeah, I'm a Christian." And do you go to church? No, I'm not really active, but I'd be happy to go with you. And so they start off going to church and enjoying some church activities together, and then pretty soon he's not so interested. And this is a gradual phase that a gradual phase out of his or her activity in the church, and pretty soon it's, no, I'm going to do some stuff around the house. No, I've got a golf date. No, I've got uh, fishing. I've got plans with some friends. I'm going fishing today. Whatever it is, and then pretty soon you're back going to church alone again, and he's nowhere to be found, or she's nowhere to be found. And this starts to create a problem. And my recommendation or my thought is that when you're looking for somebody, you need to make sure their actions match their words. And if they're not actively going to church now, they probably aren't going to be actively involved in church later on. And I'm using, this can be any number of activities or aspects or traits or characteristics of your relationship. It doesn't necessarily need to be religion. It can be politics. It can be, whatever it is. It can be cleaning the house in my case. And if you're not willing to help each other, then it becomes problematic. If you're not willing to continue to go to church with your partner, it becomes a problem. It becomes a hurdle. And the best way I can describe this is every hurdle that you put in the way is another issue or another stumbling block to prevent an extraordinary relationship. It may not be a big deal up front. It may not be a big deal in the first year, 2 years, 5 years, but at some point down the road, what you thought you could live with, what you thought you could fix, what you thought you could correct, becomes a major issue, and it becomes a major thorn in your side. So, and Glenn says church is very important to me, and Glenn, I like that. That's it, and it should be. It should be to all of us, and I say that because I come from a Christian background, and studies show that uh, Christian relationships, Christian marriages, uh, overall fare better than non-Christian marriages. So, and there'll be of those of you that'll point out, well, I'm not this, or I'm Jewish, or I'm Muslim, and we've got a real strong marriage. I'm sure you do, and I'm not here to argue that point. All I know is from my perspective, the strongest relationships are always Christian relationships, and that's what the studies show. Hey, Phil, glad to see you're here. The Phil is in the Olathe area and probably pretty warm, probably a little damp the last couple of days. So anyway, the whole idea is if you want a really strong relationship, it's all about finding that person that has a lot of similarities to you. Now, you're not going to find somebody that is a perfect match, or that likes to do everything you like to do. There are going to be things that you like to do that your significant other doesn't. But odds are that when you get into a relationship, even though they may not enjoy the activity that you're participating in, they may take a passive interest in it, and they may be mildly active or mildly interested in it, simply because it's something that you're passionate about. It's something that you enjoy doing. They may, for the most part, they could probably care less about this activity, but because it's something you like to do, they will listen to your stories. They may venture out and if it's fishing or golfing or shooting or dancing or whatever it is, they may, although if it's dancing, ladies are probably more likely to jump into that activity than guys are. But nonetheless, guys, if you're dating somebody that enjoys dancing, take some dancing lessons. Strengthen that relationship. It may not be something that you truly are fascinated with, but it's nice to go out and just get out on the dance floor and dance to the music and make her happy, and enjoy the time together. So it's there. Again, you're not going to enjoy absolutely everything that your partner loves to do. It's just not going to happen. But the more things you have in common, the fewer obstacles you're going to have to a great relationship. The more things you can agree on, the easier your relationship is going to be. And no relationship is going to be stress-free. No relationship is going to be argument-free. No relationship is going to be devoid of any problems. Life happens. We have these things that pop up. We have just everyday stressors. We have a bad day in traffic. We have problems at work. We have problems with family. We have problems with health. All these things can lay additional burdens on us or add burdens to our life. And when you add that to I guess, for lack of better terms, prearranged problems. When I say prearranged, I'm talking about things that you openly accepted when you started dating. Those are the prearranged things. Now, there's going to be a couple of things that will pop up and say, I didn't know that was there. I didn't know that's what they like to do. I didn't know that, and you'll have the occasional functional alcoholic that you'll get involved with. But if you're dating somebody that's a smoker and you openly said, I don't want to date a smoker, but you're still there, you're culpable. You're part of the problem. And it's when the minute you recognize that there's an issue, the minute you recognize that there's a potential deal breaker, that there's a warning sign, that's the time to have a discussion about it and say, hey, this is where I fall on this issue. This is my desire in a relationship. For example, smoking. I don't want to, and then I'm just saying I as in those of us that don't want to date a smoker, I want my partner to be smoke free. And those are perfectly okay things. It doesn't make any difference how good the rest of the relationship is. There are going to be this bucket of problems that comes with that person. And the bigger that bucket, the deeper that bucket, the harder that relationship is going to be. And it's so important to empty as much out of that bucket as possible, so that you don't have this big burden to carry around, that you don't have this stack of problems that's always going to be an issue. Like politics. Politics, if you're not on the same page politically. Now, let me preface this. I know some people that could give a rip about politics. I know some people that are call themselves apolitical and just don't really get involved. And that's okay if you're both that way. But if one of you is very, very active, very outspoken, it could create a problem, because the one was going to say, well, how could you not care about this? And you're just there shrugging your shoulders. I just don't care. And so that can create a stumbling block. That can create a problem that it just doesn't work for me, or it's a thorn in your side, or as they used to say in the old days, it's a burr under your saddle. So you have to think through. Glenn says, I'm going to just pop this up here real quick. Glenn says, you're right on tonight. Well, thank you. And Glenn, I've experienced this personally. I went through this with my first marriage, and I've gone through this with a couple of relationships. You can try. It's great to have the company. It's great to be in a relationship. But if you're settling for less than extraordinary, if you're settling for just okay, that's not a good thing. You should be holding out for the best. You should be holding out for the cream of the crop, and it's in this case, the cream of the crop is somebody that matches your personality, somebody that matches your sense of humor, somebody that matches your spirituality. You don't, and when it comes to the spirituality, you don't have to be in the same place at the same time. You just need to be moving in the same direction spiritually. You need to be growing in the same direction. So it's so important to pay attention, and there's always time for observation, but the best time for observation is in the early part of the relationship. And I say time and time and time again that usually within 30 days you can tell whether somebody's a decent fit, or at least worth pursuing further. And if they're not, there's no point in going any further. Now you can tell yourself these fantastic stories like, I'll never find anyone better. I won't find anyone that meets as many of my needs as he does or she does. And I guarantee you that you're lying to yourself. There is always somebody better out there. It's just a matter of waiting and looking and being prepared for that opportunity. If you're tied up in a relationship that is mediocre or maybe good at best, and your soulmate comes along, they'll walk in and out of your life before you even know it. And it's not a it's not a condemnation of anybody you may be dating. It's just saying this person isn't the right one for you. And my biggest dream, my biggest goal is to try to help all of you find that special someone, to keep you on track to find that special someone. You guys have to do the work, but I can keep you on focus. I can keep you on point and keep reminding you that your dating life needs to be something special. And I understand loneliness. If you're single long enough, loneliness does play a role. If you're not socially active, loneliness can play a huge role, and it can be very disruptive in your search, because you can get sidetracked and say, "Oh man, it just feels so good to be with somebody," and you ignore the red flags, you ignore the warning signs, you ignore the things, the stumbling blocks, or the hurdles that this relationship places in your life. And it's something that's very, very real. I spend a lot of time alone, and that loneliness can become very real. I for years I've gone to Walmart just to be around people at times, because I do spend a lot of time alone, and that's just because there's nobody in my life at the time, and it's hard to date and be places and do the work that I do, and create the things that I want to create. And there's a trade-off. What do I give up this week to go out and be social? What do I give up this week to go out and do the things that I need to do to create connection with people? And that's a huge part of the dating process. And so many people just say, "Well, I'm waiting for God to bring the right one to me." Well, you can, but you have to take an active role in this. You have to take an active role in your dating life. You have to be there. You have to be an active participant. If you're not an active participant, it's life is going to roll over you, and at best you might end up with the remains of a mediocre relationship, and nobody wants to end up there. But so many people do, because we don't understand the process of dating and finding that extraordinary relationship. We don't understand the process of dating. We don't understand the process of courting. And dating is the getting to know each other phase, and then courting is going to be the let's take this to the next level. Let's see if this is going to be a long-term relationship, marriage material. And you got to put timelines on this stuff. And I've talked to people over the years that have spent 3, 4, 5 years waiting through this mess of a relationship, knowing deep down inside that it wasn't the right one, but they still hang out. They're still together. And the biggest excuse I get there is, "Well, I've invested so much time that I don't want it to be a waste." Well, what's a bigger waste of time? Throwing additional time into a relationship that that's inherently the wrong relationship for you, or cutting your ties now and moving on and starting over. I've said many times that the pain of leaving a relationship is always greater than the pain of staying, but the pain of staying in the wrong relationship is permanent, whereas the pain of leaving is temporary. So if you have to think about that. Nobody wants to hurt, nobody wants to feel bad, nobody wants nobody wants to make the other person feel bad, and that's not something that you can do. If you think about it, who controls your feelings? You do. Who controls their feelings? They do. Now, it's their choice to feel however they feel if your relationship ends. It's your job to manage your feelings. And nobody likes to walk away. Everybody feels a little bit of a hole. Everybody feels a little bit of a loss when a relationship ends. But when is it easier to walk away from a relationship that's not right? And it doesn't even have to be a bad relationship. It's just not the right one. So when would you rather walk away? Would you rather walk away when you have 30 days in, 60 days, 90 days? Or do you want to wait till you have 2, 3, 4, 5 years invested in that relationship? And when do you want to, when are you going to make that decision? There should be a finite timeline that if you see that and for the most part, your first cutoff is going to be about 30 days. You can if you can't see potential within that first 30 days, and sometimes you're going to see it on the first date. It's going to be one and done. But for the most part, a lot of people, if you had a great date, you've had a great second date, you're getting along, you have to start looking at the deeper background. You have to start looking at your must-haves and your deal breakers. And what are the consequences of ignoring those? And what are the consequences of not having those written down and handy to look at? I've had dates where we've talked about those things, and she's asked me what my must-haves were, and I had my list right there. I have it on my phone. My deal breakers are very simple. They're three things: cats, tats, and pornography. Cats, tattoos, and pornography. And you cat lovers, don't cut me down. I'm just a dog lover. That's the way it is. We all have our preferences. So you have to look at those things, and it never hurts. This is not something that you pull out your must-have list or your deal breaker list on your first date. No, you get in and you get into the relationship a little bit, or you get into a few dates, and you for the most part you can observe most of what's on your list. Do they treat people well? Or what are the characteristics that you're looking for? If you're looking for somebody that will hold your hand, is he holding your hand? When you're walking down the street, does he treat you like a gentleman? Does he walk on the curb side of the street? Does he open doors for you? And the same thing with ladies. Do the ladies treat you with dignity and respect? For the guys, so there are a lot of things out there that we have to pay attention to, and everybody's list is different. One of my dearest friends has a list that is about 5 items long. That's it. That's all she cares about. The rest is negotiable. For me, I've got 36, and I've worked with people that had, I think, somewhere north of 60. And it all depends on what's important to you. And it doesn't make the number doesn't make a difference. It's what you want. And when you say, Rick, 36 things, how is it possible for somebody to meet all 36 things? I've dated several women that have covered the gamut. They've covered every single one of them. And what the one incredible thing is, all of the soulmate couples, or the extraordinary couples, the ones that are truly happy, have told me exactly the same thing, that their mate has brought more to their relationship than they ever could have imagined. So think about this. If you're telling me that, if you were sitting here across from me telling me that, wow, Rick, you can never find that. Well, I've already found that several times. And why am I not with them? Because that's not the only part of a relationship. You have to develop an intellectual, a spiritual, an emotional, and a physical connection. I firmly believe you need to speak similar love languages. It just makes the communication process so much easier. And then there's chemistry. And all these things have to come together at the right, all together at the same place at the same time. And that's not always easy to do. And the emotional connections, those develop over time, but when you spend too much time with the wrong person, you can still develop an emotional connection to them. And that the longer you spend with somebody and even if they're the wrong ones, you develop an emotional connection. And that makes it even more difficult to try to walk away from in the end. And the longer you spend in the wrong relationship, the less time you have to find the right one and spend time in the right relationship. Look at it from that perspective. If you're thinking that, I've just invested all this time in this relationship, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, how much more time do you want to invest with the wrong person when deep down inside they're not the right one? You can't do it. And if you do, you're only going to regret it later on. And one of the things that another issue I see is letting your emotions get the best of you early on. The new relationships are always neat and smooth and cool and fine in all respects, and you have these warm, fuzzy feelings deep down inside. But those warm, fuzzy feelings, the butterflies, the tingles in your stomach, the jittery knees or the tingly toes, those things are all temporary. Those things are part of the infatuation process, and that can last up to 2 years. So you have to be able to step back from the infatuation and raging hormones, or the raging hormones of infatuation. Let's put it that way. Let's rephrase that. And that's all it is. You get all these warm, fuzzy feelings underneath, and he says, "Oh, this is the one. She's my soulmate, or he's my soulmate, and this is the relationship I've been waiting for." And then gradually over time, you start to discover the things you missed. You start to discover the things that you ignored. You start to discover things that just aren't right, that aren't sitting, that are an irritant. They're the roadblocks. They're the hurdles that are the issues that are going to be hurdles or roadblocks later on. And it's so important to be able to recognize those things early. And that's why it's important to have your must-have and your deal-breaker list and have those written out before you start dating. It's so easy to get caught up in the emotions of a new relationship. Like I said, the raging hormones of infatuation. And then before you know it, you're all bound up in this relationship. Yet, had you taken the time just to step back out of the infatuation for just a short bit, just to look at your list and say, okay, does he have everything I'm looking for? Is she displaying any of my deal breakers or any red flags or any warning signs? Am I starting to see myself long term with this person? Is there something? Do I see a possibility there? And if you can say, yes, I see she has all my must-haves. No, he doesn't have any of my deal breakers. And yes, I can see the possibilities of a relationship. Then proceed, then keep going, and then dump back into the infatuation and have a good time. But you have to be able to step back out of those emotions, because emotions, making decisions with the heart, is going to screw you up almost every time. Every time. It's just the way we're designed. It's the way we're built. Is the emotions will send us in the wrong direction every time. Just think of the last time, and it doesn't even have to be a relationship. Just think about the emotions that were tied up when you bought your last car. Oh, this is such a neat car. Oh, yeah. Or some big purchase that was really important to you. you went and you made an emotional decision and then went back and figured out all the reasons to justify that purchase. Why was that the right car for you? Why was that the right refrigerator for you? And you can get down even to appliances. It works the same way. So when you're dating, when you're getting involved with somebody, make sure you're making decisions for the right reasons. Make sure that you're not building in problems or roadblocks or hurdles into your relationship by accepting things that you deep down inside don't want to deal with, that you don't want to be a part of. And it because it only later on it's going to come back to bite you, and then the emotions that are involved, it takes just that much longer to recover from. And let's keep the recovery time to a minimum. It's we think that just by staying, we're somehow magically going to fix these issues. We're not. They're never going to go away. My ex is still the way she is. I'm still the way I am. Well, I hope I've changed a little bit. I hope she's grown a little bit. But just think about your exes. Are they primarily the same person they were when you dated? Did they? For the most part, my guess is you're going to say yes. I mean, unless there was some physical disability or something that came on, some disease or illness, odds are that they're still the same personality, deep down inside. They may change for a certain amount of time. Like I changed my sense of humor. I had to be much more guarded with my sense of humor when I was married. It's just, we just our senses of humor seem to drift apart. And when you start to recognize those things, it becomes a problem. Was my sense of humor a problem in the beginning? Probably. But she didn't recognize it, or she didn't understand it, or she chose to ignore it. And so, I'm not a perfect person. So I recognize that I had to make adjustments. But the harder adjustment was after my divorce, that I had to relearn who I was. And that's always really difficult. And I know for those of you that are divorced, probably not so much widowed, but probably some of you widows also recognize that you made some changes and adjustments to accommodate your marriage. We all do. Some of these things are bigger deals than others. And when you're in the right relationship, making these adjustments is easy because they're generally simple adjustments. They're generally small adjustments. Saying, yeah, I can put the toilet paper on over the top as opposed to on the bottom. Yeah, I can learn how to squeeze the tube of toothpaste from the bottom rather than the middle, or from the middle rather than the bottom. Or I can just get you a different tube, or I can just get a different tube of toothpaste. Doesn't make that much difference. You make little adjustments. It's okay. But when you have to start making major personality adjustments, major adjustments in your lifestyle to accommodate your partner, to keep the peace in the family, those are not the roadblocks or the hurdles that we want to deal with. Let's focus on the ones that we can't control. Let's focus on the ones that life throws at us. Losing a job, losing a family member, those acquiring an illness or something like that. Let's focus on dealing with that rather than having to deal with the crap that's involved with with a relationship that isn't right to begin with. And it really is pretty easy when you come down to it, when you break it down and say, okay, and for most of you that are divorced, I can go back to the first 30 days. If we were to sit and talk, I can go back to the first 30 days that you dated and see the problems that you ignored. It's not that hard to recognize. So it's something that we have to learn to pay attention to. Let's do this right. Let's do it right the second time. Let's not jump the gun. Let's not let our emotions run crazy with us. I have a dear friend that is in the process of a divorce, and I saw the handwriting on the wall, and when she started dating the guy and fell in love and got engaged, and it's just there's a lot more to the backstory. But the point is, I saw the handwriting on the wall, and in less than a year, she's getting divorced and moving on with another tumultuous relationship, or moving away from another tumultuous relationship. It's just one of those things that when you step back and take a look at your relationships objectively, and that is so hard to do, but when you learn how to do it, it makes your life so much easier. It makes your life so much easier to step back and look and say, is this the right relationship for me? And if it's not, it doesn't make them a bad person. It doesn't make you a bad person. It just means it's not the right relationship. And to try to continue to force a relationship that instinctively isn't right, or to settle and to be less than happy, or less than engaged in your relationship, that's a tragedy. That's something that nobody should have to do. Yet 85% of marriages are that way. They're okay. Some are good, but they're not great. They're not extraordinary. And the idea is to be patient, to wait for the extraordinary, and the extraordinary will come. It just takes a little bit longer. Any one of us can settle into a relationship today and be okay with it. We're going to go off and grumble and do things. I listen to my best friends who have been married for, one of my best friends has been married for over 40 years. And, while they have a generally okay or generally good relationship, it's not extraordinary. They talk to me about their problems, their issues. And it's like, why are you still here? And after 40 years, it's, you almost stick around just because that's all because that's the way. And once you are married, and coming from a Christian background, once you are married, you need to do everything you can to make it work. But if you're not going to be extraordinarily happy in that relationship, there's no point in getting into those relationships to begin with. And I'm hoping this is making sense for you all. I'm hoping that this is going to sink in somewhere and affect somebody in the right way. And if it only impacts one person today, let's that's awesome. Let's keep one more person out of a bad marriage. Let's keep one more person out of another divorce. And if we can do that and get you to think about what you're doing before you sign on the dotted line and stand in front of the preacher, that's what I'm here for. That's what it's all about. Let's make the right decisions going forward. It's not always easy. And if you need help, reach out to me. Let's see if coaching might be a good process or a good step for you. I've got a course coming out that will be available shortly called Dating Made Simple Academy. And it goes through all of the processes of creative of learning how to date the way we never learned how to date. Making sure that we're mentally and emotionally ready to date, because that's a big deal. Most of us don't realize that once we come out of a divorce or even widowed, we get out there and start dating again, and we're just not there mentally. Whether it's we're not there, we haven't healed emotionally, or we're still locked up mentally in our last relationship or relationships. Especially if you're a serial monogamous, jumping from one relationship to the next, to the next, to the next, without taking any serious time to heal. And whatever your issue may, and looking at everything from online dating to getting yourself prepped for that first date, to communication and learning how to talk to people and learning what to say and what not to say. And there are some things out there that that you can say that just shoot yourself in the foot. They destroy your chances of a second date or a third date. And how do you overcome those? So that's what I teach in not only my course, but in my book, Dating Backward, and individual coaching. And individual coaching is very personalized. It goes through, it depends on where you are and what you're struggling with. But again, it's something that I don't want to coach you forever. Ideally, I want to coach you in what you need, and if you need some tuning up later on, great. But anyway, if you have any questions or want to take a look at personal coaching, give me a call or drop me a line, and let's schedule a time to talk and see if it would be a good fit for you, or let's see if the course would be a good fit for you, or maybe it's just simply get my book, Dating Backward, and go through that. So with that, let's wrap up tonight, unless you guys have any questions. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for being here, Lisa, Glenn, Phil, and the others of you that were hidden in the background that were popping in and out. I appreciate you. I will be back next and we'll go from there. In the meantime, I hope you guys have a great and blessed week. I love you, and we'll see you next Monday.